this week's question is going to be, how often do you put other people's needs ahead of your own? And I think just because I was like thinking about myself, thinking, well, just because I'm a mum, a wife and a carer, I know I put my needs a lot of the time to the bottom of the list. And genuinely, I don't think that I particularly want to or wish for that to be any different. For me, to put myself before the needs of like my children just feels inherently wrong. So I don't know that that's ever something that I want to or will be changing. But it did make me think about other areas in life where I'm perhaps giving my power away a little bit too freely. So I know that I am horrific, and I'm going to say horrific because I know that it's quite bad for me, that underlying need to feel enough looks a lot like people pleasing and over giving and over worrying about what everybody else is thinking, and whether or not like wanting people to approve of me and think that I'm a nice person. I know that's something that I do quite a lot, and I think that is one of the reasons why, like, last week might have been that week where I just needed to just be still, because there's been so much happening. I feel like, I don't want to say burnt out because I've heard that around a lot, and I don't know that it feels quite right for me and my circumstances, but it definitely felt like I'd got to my limit. And because I'd got to my limit, I've had a week where I tried to slow it down, but also within the sort of the time frame of these last 2 weeks, so the week before and last week, I've really tried to think about the times when I say yes or I am over delivering when I don't have to, and in certain areas of life just reining it back a little bit. And I don't think that has to be a negative thing. Actually, what I feel like is I'm holding that new person that I'm becoming, that new identity that I'm attempting to actually live in a little bit with a little bit more value. And that means respecting myself a bit more, trusting myself a bit more, and just coming at things with a little bit more maturity, which you'd think by the time I'm 50 I would have, but clearly it is a work in progress. So I definitely can know my value, and I can respect my own limits within it. So over the last couple of weeks, instead of just saying yes or just making myself available because I'm feeling like it suits the other person, I'm just spending a little bit of like a pause, and then only saying yes or only agree to doing something if I can see that it fits that bigger picture for me, and it's not another time when I'm trying to do more for somebody else so that they like me. So there was 2 things that have happened, sort of almost like one for each side. One time somebody reached out, so somebody that I'd been working with and has become a little bit more of a friend, reached out and asked me if I wanted to go for a coffee. And I'd actually been thinking, like, the day before it would be nice to catch up with them, but the date that they suggested, I looked at my diary and thought, do you know what, it's going to be tight. I could have done it, but it was going to be it was going to mean that I was rushing and trying to fit things in rather than allocating the time that really to go out and have a nice coffee and catch up deserved. So I said that I couldn't make that date, but there was another day that would be more convenient for me, and I knew that would work better for my schedule. And they just said, yeah, that's fine, I can do either. But again, if they couldn't, I was willing to hold my ground and be like, no, I'm not going to stress myself out. I'm not going to give myself extra things to worry about just because I'm trying to shoehorn this coffee date. No, it's not date. Coffee. Like coffee and catch up in with a friend. So I thought that was something that I was quite proud of myself, being like, no, because in my previous identity, I would have just made it work. Whatever she had suggested, I'd have made it work. And as I said, me trying to embrace this new identity and live in it a little bit more so, I was like, no, actually that's not going to work for me. Let's look at alternative times. And if obviously it could have been that she couldn't have made that the alternative, in which case I'd have been happy to say, well, maybe we could do it another week then. So was that one thing. And then the other thing that it was almost like a hard no, where I've been working on a project, taking on more and more responsibilities, but not really gaining anything from it, just because I'm that people pleaser and I don't want to let somebody down, and I want, to make sure things get done, and I didn't want to be like the sticking point. I looked at it and thought, do you know what? I cannot keep taking on more and more responsibilities. All the time I'm doing that, I'm sacrificing time somewhere else to be doing something else. And there has got to be a point when I'm like, do you know what? I really can't do the next thing. So when I was asked to, or when there was a conversation around, oh, there's this next thing that we're planning, do you want to help organise it? I was then just able to say, I'm really sorry, but not this time. And I left it at that. Every ounce of me wanted to start explaining it and going, oh, but it's not me, be really apologetic. But I was like, no, I just can hold that. I'm really sorry. I'm not this time. The world didn't end, and I was able to retake some of that power back and now I'm looking at it thinking, oh, well, now I've got a little bit more time, so I can focus on an area where maybe I'm choosing to focus on. So every time that you honour yourself by sticking to your boundaries, by saying no to something that's not appropriate for you, what you're doing is actually sending your brain a signal that you matter, and then it will start creating that self-trust in the decisions and the actions you made. So I think overall it does help you embed the new identity a little bit more. So this week I thought I would just ask the question around, where are you giving your power away, or not holding on to your self-respect enough to say no? And I think that's quite a nice reflective type question for anybody that's following along with this series or just hops on to this particular episode to think about, when you're out there living your life, where are you giving your power away? What does it look like? Where are you not respecting yourself enough to say no? And then the action point for next week will be to practice holding that boundary.